Welcome back to the Green Yard and another beautiful day here in Phoenix, Arizona. We're actually at the end of November, beginning of December here in Phoenix, and we have still been having amazing weather with our highs in the mid 70s and our lows in the mid 50s. So all of our beautiful fruiting and flowering tropical fruit trees are doing really well and loving this warmer weather as we head into winter. I'm seeing a lot of new growth. Our African tulip tree right here has a whole bunch of new leaves coming out on the top. Our jackfruit tree, now this one's interesting. I looked back the other day, about 6 months ago, I did growing a jackfruit in Phoenix, Arizona, jackfruiting ground, and the tree was at about 3 feet, and it's literally taller than I am, and I'm over 6 feet tall. So it is growing exponentially this year. Kind of crazy to see all the amazing growth that our jackfruit tree has been putting on. Really, really beautiful tree that we have here. Also have our soursop tree that's putting on a lot of new growth. Our papayas are putting on a bunch of papayas right now too. Really amazing to see how well all of our fruiting and flowering trees are doing with this warmer winter weather. But we're over here in the tropical food forest part of the Green Yard, surrounded by all of our beautiful trees, to talk today about our tree right here. This is our Jacote, or our hog plum tree. Now, the title of this video is a little misleading. It's, how is it growing? It's been 12 months, a year, since we planted our Jacote in the ground. This is actually not the same Jacote that I planted a year ago. It's actually been a little bit over a year. It is not the same Jacote. That Jacote unfortunately didn't make it through last winter. It did great, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing this video, is not necessarily to be misleading, but instead to kind of share my experience with trying to grow Jacote over the last that hog plum over the last year, a little bit more than a year here. So our original version that was planted was a lot smaller than this one. When I got it, I learned that they're actually grown from cuttings. So the one that I got before was clearly a much smaller branch that was cut off and rooted out. This one's a much bigger branch. This branch is actually almost the size of my forearm, and I specifically picked this Jacote for that exact reason, because it had a really large branch for the cutting. It has grown like crazy since I planted it back in end of July, and it has just taken off. It's almost doubled in size. Just a testament to how much our Jacotes and our hog plums love that warmer weather and really enjoy that full sun and that heat. So let's talk a little bit about where it's planted, what I think went wrong with our original Jacote that we had in the ground, and what I think is going to go right with this one. So here we go. This really is my favorite part of the Green Yard. We have our red dragon fruit starting to actually grow up our beautiful male mulberry tree, our mother tree here in the Green Yard, our tree that is allowing us to grow all of these tropical fruiting and flowering trees with that afternoon shade. So our dragon fruit is actually hanging on, rooting out, and actually stuck on this time to our mulberry tree. So hopefully we'll get some dragon fruit in the near future. Soursop, like I mentioned, putting off that new growth. Really amazing how well this tree is doing. I must say, after our jackfruit tree, this is definitely my next favorite tree. Getting some really big leaves going too. Of course, we have our papaya tree. Let me move some of these leaves out of the way. Our Jacote doing well. Cherry mango. And then, of course, we have our Jacote. So as I mentioned before, so this Jacote, I purposely put it in this spot. I originally I had tried to transplant a Australian finger lime, and I ended up, it just didn't take the transplant from another part of the yard. And so I decided to put the Jacote here. And the reason why is because I knew it didn't like that cooler temperature. And I felt that this was a good spot for it. It's, you know, protected and covered by our carrying mango trees right next to it. I have these mounds of mulch to help keep it a little bit warmer. It's also right next to our pond, this kind of waterfall that we have going down into our koi fish pond, which is back here. Also, it's against a brick wall, which I felt might keep it a little bit warmer as well. So what happened is I did cover it last year. It actually did amazing last year. It went all the way through the winter, kicked butt. It actually put out new growth, which was amazing to see. It put out new growth, and then I uncovered it a little bit early. I uncovered it, and we had a couple nights in the upper 30s, and it did not recover from that. So I was like, you know what? Go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and just try to replant it and redo this with a new Jacote, because I've heard the fruit is amazing. The trees are really beautiful and they do really well. A couple people that watched the planting video said, you know, it seems like it's just luck of the draw what Jacote you get, whether it's going to survive or not. This one looks really healthy. It's got this huge trunk. It has just taken off this year. Put on, like I said, it's about doubled in size. It's almost about 5 feet tall at its tip here, and just really doing really amazing. So I am going to cover it again this year. Part of the reason I'm doing this video because I have to start covering our tropical fruit trees. So I'm going to cover it this year, and this time I will just make sure that I leave it on until we get out of the cooler temperatures for sure. This tree itself, you'll notice on the tips, it stopped putting out any sort of new growth. It stopped doing that about 4 weeks ago or so. About a month ago, it stopped putting out any sort of new growth, and that's when we started getting a little bit cooler. So as soon as we started getting cooler, it stopped putting out that new growth, and instead, it's just kind of holding on to the foliage that it has now. It has seen already low 40s for a temperature, which is pretty impressive. We hit 40 degrees the other day in the green yard for a couple hours, and it has not lost any leaves or anything. It's still doing pretty well. So I know I mentioned this a lot with our fruiting and flowering tropical trees, and you might be tired of me saying it, but part of the reason that I believe that our trees have been doing so well is because of that heavy mulch that I do. That heavy mulch really adds just this extra layer of protection, I feel like, and then it really does increase that organic matter as well, which is awesome. So our Jacote is no different. I have added in a lot of that organic matter, that mulch, to really try to help the tree be more successful here in its new spot. Definitely going to cover it with frost fabric, like I mentioned, here in actually the next few days as we start to get a little bit lower in temperature. And then I have been fertilizing this guy once a month with our fish emulsion. I believe that helps as well. I mean, I've seen some crazy growth both in our jackfruit tree and in this Jacote tree, and I'm definitely sure that lowering that soil pH and giving the tree access to that food is part of that success. So I'm hoping to give you an update as we get into spring after our winter months, and we see this Jacote tree just continue to thrive and do really well. I am actually seeing a little bit of cold damage on some of these leaves here now as I'm a little bit closer and lower on the tree. The upper leaves are doing great. It's actually the lower ones that seem to have a little bit of cold damage on there. So definitely a good time to cover this one up. So of course, if you have any questions about Jacotes or about any of our other fruiting or flowering tropical trees, please feel free to comment below. I'd be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. And if there's any other videos that you'd like to see about some of our trees or our plants, please feel free to comment that as well below. I'm hoping that we have a good winter this year and it's a little bit warmer and all of our fruiting and flowering tropical trees do really well. As always, live green, plant lots, and of course have fun. We'll see y'all next time.